Grab a brew and tune in to the High Ticket Review. In each episode, you'll get a rewind of the misses, makes, and definitely magic of live high-ticket sales calls from a veteran sales consultant, Will DeShazo, who has held more than 15,000 calls and trained multiple 8-figure companies, all while developing a simple winning framework to close your next call. From objection handling,
I'm gonna need to sleep on this,
to on-call close techniques, the High Ticket Review has you covered up in talk tracks that convert to dollars. Now, on to today's training.
Okay, today's training is going to be a really simple one, and simple is generally always best, right? And simple is generally always hardest, most challenging, right? Right. So I had a coach ask me recently, hey, I want to close more business. I don't want to just take more calls. I want to close more business. He had mentioned that he does about 10 calls a week, and maybe he'll close one. And he was like, what's it take for me to close 3 or 4 out of the 10 rather than just one? Which, by the way, I love that question. It's such a good question, right? Because if we could close 3 or 4 deals out of 10 rather than one deal out of 10, we could take 30 less calls a month to get to the same income level. Whoa. We could work 30 hours less a month for the same income level, or we could work the same amount of time for like 3 or 4x the income level. Whoa. Both options are fantastic. Just depends on your goals and how you want to run your business. So this coach came to me and said, what do I need to do to close more business? He said, I had a conversation with someone recently. I gave it the good old, knock it out of the park, pitched them my offer, and they said whatever they said, some objection here and there. They ghosted them in follow-up and never came back again. And he's like, why didn't they buy? What happened? I don't understand what could have happened, what could have held them back from buying. So, as any good coach would do, I ask questions. Okay, well, tell me about the call. And he goes on and on and on about what he said on the call and what he did. No. Tell me about who you were talking to. Tell me about the prospect on the call. And he said, what do you mean? Well, how old were they? Was it a girl? Was it a woman or a man? Oh, it was a woman. She was about, I don't know, she was older. Well, how old was she? I don't know. That's a key piece of information. The coach ended up saying she's around 60 or 70, something like that. 50, 60, 70. Oh, okay. Was she married? I don't know. That's a key piece of information, isn't it? Right? How long was she married if she was married? Is she happy in her relationship or unhappy? Right? Well, how many grandkids does she have? I don't know if she has grandkids. You don't know if she has grandkids? No idea. Does she have kids? I don't know if she has kids. There is no way on earth that you can close a conversation without increasing the knowledge of your prospect. You need to not know that who you're talking to has a problem. That's easy. You need to know everything about your prospect. Who they are, where they are, their belief systems, what they care about, how they're struggling, their relationships, how long they've been struggling, intertwined needs and desires, goals, beliefs, family, friends, the kind of car they drive. I don't care. You need to increase your knowledge of your prospect. You actually don't need to become an expert in sales. Forget about that. You do not need to become an expert in marketing. Forget about that. To 2, 3, or even 4x your income or your close rate, you just need to become an expert on your prospect. And every prospect you talk to is drastically different. You see, the reason that you need to become an expert on your prospect is so that you can discover this information to understand if, and particularly why, your program is 100% the perfect fit for them to overcome XYZ problem. I call this the carabiner close. It's tying back to what you heard. Hey, earlier you said you felt all alone and you were trying to figure this out in your mom's basement. That's why I'm going to surround you with an entire community in pillar number 1 here. Here's how it works. Hey, earlier you had told me that the reason you go back to the pantry to grab more, the reason you can't take off the weight is you're going back to the pantry. And the reason you're going back to the pantry is because you're triggered emotionally. Whenever we found you're triggered emotionally, you go back to the pantry. Here's the thing. I give you on-demand access to me. So when you can learn that what these trigger points are specifically, you can come right to me, stop going to the pantry, and come to me. You see, if I don't know all of these things, the deepest desires of my prospect, I probably can't specifically relate to how my program will solve each of those things. But if I ask good questions, if I increase my knowledge of my prospect, if I become an expert on my prospect, guess what I can do? It makes the close easy. I can just relate back to what they said and why my program fixes these things. I can tie back during my pitch. It's that simple. So if you were to ask me, hey, Will, I want to work less and make more. I want to take less calls and close more calls. What's the number one thing I should do? What would I say? You need to increase the knowledge of your prospect. In discovery, you need to understand viscerally who you are talking to, what they care most about. Then you can relate back to those things during your pitch. Okay? So this has nothing to do with increasing your sales knowledge or your marketing prowess. This has everything to do with you harnessing what you do best as a coach. And that is care. And that is empathy. And that is learning more about the person you are talking to. That's it. That is all you have to do. So go sprinkle this onto your next sales conversation. I'm looking forward to hearing from you what happens as a result of that. And we'll see you next time on the podcast.
All right, you just listened to the High Ticket Review. And by the way, this podcast is completely supported by you, a high ticket closer, business owner, or salesperson. So make sure to smash that subscribe button to close higher dollar deals faster. And don't forget, go implement what you heard today. Opportunity is right around the bend on the other end of every single call that you take. See you next time.